All right, we are live. Man, do we have a lot to talk about today. Let me check my settings real quick on my audio. Let me know where you're joining from. And we have a lot to talk about today. So let me get live on TikTok here. We're going to talk about, don't be conformed to your echo chamber. Are we having internet issues today? Okay. Sorry, fixing something on TikTok and we'll be off and rolling. Let me know where you're joining from. Oh, shoot. There's not enough letters on TikTok. Okay. Okay, done. Okay, we're going live on TikTok. I froze for a second. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Hi, Facebook user. I see that. Hi, Paul. I don't know who you are. You didn't get your name in there for some reason. Dayton, Ohio is here. Belfast, Ireland. All right, Tom from Belfast. That's cool. Our topic today, really this Monday is kind of a freewheeling Q&A, and so you can ask and I'll try to respond. But Monday, I picked a topic, and my topic is don't be conformed to your echo chamber. And I'm going to talk a lot today about the right-wing echo chamber. Actually, the title of this live is Don't Be Conformed to Your Echo Chamber or Fox News. And why we're not to be conformed, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And we'll talk about that sort of biblically. And so I'm going to talk about it certainly from a right-wing media perspective, right-wing craziness perspective. We'll play some right-wing crazy videos. But also, I want to talk about it from all of us, because the truth is we all get stuck in an echo chamber. The echo chamber often is our emotional health echo chamber, where our story that we live from, our mindset is defined by what we were told when we were young, by parents, by authority, by our religion, by our religion, by our religion. It is as impactful, our religion that we grow up in, almost as impactful as our parents are to us. And so all of that has to be, when I do coaching with my clients, quite often we have to not only unravel what mom told us, but we have to unravel what pastor told us, what Sunday school teacher told us, because Christianity in America today presses against your emotional well-being. It tells you you are depraved flesh. You're an original sinner because some guy ate a piece of fruit 6,000 years ago. And so I want to talk about echo chambers today, but also want to hear from you. Hi, so Kansas is here, Brisbane, Australia, Dayton, Ohio. Jill is here. She says, I'm here. Where are you from, Jill? Douglas from Fascist, South Dakota. We connect around place. My name is Paul, and I am in Fresno, California. So let's talk about not being conformed to our echo chamber, but being transformed by the never-ending renewing of our mind. So I hear a lot of craziness from Christians. It's amazing to me that Christians, hi, Phoenix is with us. It's amazing to me that Christians have become so easily manipulated by Fox News. But then when you think about it, when you grow up in an indoctrination community that says you are included in our community as long as you agree with our dogma and indoctrination, then it becomes very easy, I think, to be manipulated by propaganda. I think you are set up as an evangelical youth to be easily manipulated by propaganda. You are taught Satan asked questions in the garden. Asking questions is satanic and evil. You are taught, don't let anybody convince you of anything that's different than what we teach. And so you grow up in this echo chamber where you're taught not to think. And I deal with Christians on a regular basis, and I always put quotes around the Christ part of it because Christians don't look anything like Jesus of the Bible. And Christians become very easy to manipulate because you are told from your youth, do not listen to anybody outside our echo chamber. And it's interesting because the Bible says exactly the opposite. And let me show you one place where it does so, and does so loudly and strongly. Sorry, let me find it here. So this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, Romans 12:2. And I'm going to have to look around the camera a little bit here to read it. It says, don't be conformed to this world. Now, this is the English Standard Version of the Bible. And you see on your screen, if you're watching on YouTube, you won't see this on TikTok, but YouTube and Facebook, you see that word world, that word's translated world. It's the Greek word for age. The literal word is the word aeon, A-I-O-N. It means era. It means age. It means don't be conformed to the echo chamber you live in. Don't be conformed to the era you live in. Don't be conformed to what you've always been told, but be transformed. It says, like, be transformed. And transformed, the word there for transformed is a word that's only used one other time in the entire New Testament. And it's the word that we use for transfiguration for Jesus. Jesus was completely changed on the mountain in a way in the story that Peter's like, holy shit, let's never leave this place ever again. Let's build some tents and stay here for the rest of our lives. So transform doesn't mean like, hey, tweak your beliefs every once in a while. It's saying be completely changed from your current form to something supernatural. And how do you get that transformation? Well, according to Romans 12:2, by the renewal of your mind. And if we break the Greek down of what it's saying, the renewing, it's an ongoing, it's an ever-present tense of the saying. It's saying, be transformed by the never-ending renewing of your mind. So Romans 12:2 is saying, don't be conformed to your echo chamber, but be hugely transformed so that you are different than you were before. Don't not tweak your beliefs a little bit, or now I'm emphasizing this part of the Bible instead of that part. No, it's be transformed. Don't be conformed to your echo chamber. Don't be conformed to your echo chamber, but be transformed by the never-ending renewing of your mind. And why does the Bible say to do that? It says that by testing, you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. It's a command of the Bible that Christians ignore, and of course they twist it to say, don't be conformed to that world out there. But that's not what the verse says. You can't even make it say that if you really understand it, because it's saying, don't ever stop being transformed again. Because if you stop being transformed, you're not going to know what is good and right in a season. You're going to be, Jesus said, don't try to put new wine into old wineskins. You can't take mindsets from the past and try to put it into something new and continue to be moving forward in what is good and right. And so we see Christians who are told, don't think, don't ask questions. Job was punished for asking questions, which is not true to the story if you really read it. Satan convinced Eve to convince Adam to sin because he asked questions. Asking questions is evil. Asking questions is not evil. Jesus asked questions all the time. Whenever anybody came to him and said, what about this, Jesus? What about this? He would point them to questions. He would say, you've heard it said, but I say. He said, this is what you believed before. This is where we are going in the next season. So Romans 12:2 says, don't be conformed to your echo chamber, but be radically impacted and changed by the ongoing renewing of your mind so that you can know what is good and right in this season of history. You would never want to make a clogged up a little bit. So yeah, we're talking about don't get stagnant and stop learning, and I'm getting hung up on my internet. So, and this is true, people. And for those of us, the prophet Amos in the Hebrew scriptures, is like saying, "Hey, you Syria," and the Israelites are there going, "Yeah, tell Syria," and "Hey, you these people, yeah, tell them." And then in the last thing, he's like, "And you Israel," and they're like, "Oh shit, he's talking about us." Let me talk to you who are out there saying, "Yeah, those crazy right-wing Christians." We all need to be challenging our echo chamber on a regular basis. And I ask the question often: when was the last time you allowed your belief system to be challenged? When was the last time you read a book that came from a perspective of somebody who believed differently than you? When was the last time you asked a question of the leader of a group that you're in and say, how do we know that it's right? That's one of the amazing things to be about American Christians today is how do you know where Christians got it right? Because so much of history, Christians have had it wrong. And you would admit through so much of history, Christians have had it wrong. So aren't you lucky that you've landed in the one time in all of human history where Christians have it all right? Don't be conformed to your echo chamber, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So let me show you like what happens when you get caught in your echo chamber. Let me see. Mondays are also time when we do crazy right-wing videos. And let's see, is this it? So CPAC is going on, the Crazy People of America, something like that. Maybe that's not exactly what CPAC means, but that's what it is. It's the Crazy Nutty People of America conference. And so let's look at some let's see okay, wait, this isn't it. Where are my highlights? I need my highlights from CPAC. Because CPAC is crazy, man, crazy. Let's see where I got it. Oh, here it is. Talk amongst yourselves while I figure it out. Okay, let me see which one it is. Sorry, guys. Talk amongst yourselves. Is this it? No. Dang it. I can't find it now. Gosh darn it. I'm going to have to edit this out in post-production for sure. CPAC highlights. Where is it? Nope, that's not it either. Technology. I know all of you are now leaving, except for the crazy Christian asking the usual Fox News manipulated questions of nutball right-wingers. He'll stay, I'm sure. Okay, well, I guess maybe here it is. Okay. This is it. Highlights from the Crazy People of America Conference, CPAC. And how could we start with anybody other than Kimberly Guilfoyle, the fiance of douchebag Trump Jr. I'm sorry, Donald Trump Jr. Here we go.
It is time to put America first.
Why is she always screaming? Like, what is her deal?
You've disrespected Donald J. Trump long enough.
They're coming for our children.
10-month abortions.
50 different genders. And now they want to ban gas-powered cars and gas stoves.
Check under your seats.
And because
If
Christians
there happens to be a gold chocolate bar underneath there,
out of confirmation of their age, they believe all of this.
Family.
We're going from today all the way back to Burisma.
Hunter Biden.
Hunter Biden laptop.
No money to Ukraine.
Easily
A perfect
manipulated.
phone call.
I'm not politically correct.
My pants are going to fall down. Your sons and daughters are going to die on foreign battlefields.
Newsmax and LAN, it's just the stuff that we all believe.
We should always act as if we were in the end time.
No, we shouldn't.
You're not going to cancel God.
Our God is bigger.
America's only Christian conservative cell phone company.
How many of you want to
Ladies
follow
and
Marjorie
gentlemen,
Taylor
a
Greene's
rabbi, a Christian,
God?
and a cardinal walk into a bar.
The woke industrial complex.
This billion-dollar industry that mutilates the genitals of children.
Mutilates
Young
the
girls
gender-
mutilating
the
themselves. Boys that are having their penises turned inside
The
out.
Permanent
circumcision
life-altering
mutilate
sex change surgeries by their
children.
rainbow-haired teacher.
Some green-haired, woke, diversity, ESG, DEI
All
board member.
anger.
I'm not going to buy Coke
All
anymore because
outrage.
it's woke. I'm going to buy Diet Dr. Pepper.
Basically allowing unlimited abortion anytime, anywhere,
Oh, anger.
any
Oh,
trimester,
outrage.
quadmester, whatever you wanted.
We don't want that. Keep that there.
Abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF,
Matt
DOJ, every
Gaetz. Who
last
wants to be
one
in
of them.
heaven with a guy like that?
away from fundamentally changing America.
When Donald J. Trump talks, it's newsworthy. These are the Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz days.
Is
No
that the kind
question
of
about
America you want to live in? The stakes, me either.
MAGA, MAGA, MAGA.
It is time.
I mean, the rage machine, man, and it owns Christians because they're conformed to their echo chamber. You are taught as a child, don't ask questions. Don't listen to people who disagree with our belief system. Don't allow yourself to think, but be like a child. Childlike faith means don't think, don't question, don't live, don't feel your emotions, just stuff it and go. And you can see it in the comments for those of you on TikTok. Like, it's just one recitation of Fox News propaganda after another, after another, after another. Fox News became the Christian cable news source in the late 90s. And one of the ways they did it, this is a little secret many of you may not know, they did it by putting really young, beautiful blonde women in very short skirts and putting them behind plexiglass see-through desks or sitting on a couch to give the news. That's how Fox took over Christian media. Yes, they put women highly desirable to sexually repressed Christian men and then took over their brains while they were sitting there going, wow, look at Kimberly Guilfoyle on TV. So, and the funny thing is, then Christians will say, well, CNN does the same because they believe people who disagree with them are totally engrossed and get all their information from CNN like they do from Fox or OAN or Newsweek. They just can't see a world that's any different than their own because they don't follow Romans 12:2 to not be conformed to their aeon, to their era, to their echo chamber, but instead they refuse to be transformed because they're taught thinking, learning, growing, challenging, asking questions is sin. And so you become very, very easily to manipulate. Then add in the end times prophecy and the when I was growing up, there was a book called 83 Reasons Jesus Will Come in 1983. Then the same author wrote another book. Can you guess the title? 88 Reasons Jesus is Coming in 1988. And people bought it again, even though he was wrong. Chuck Smith, who's in this movie, Jesus Revolution, he told everyone that the world could not survive past 1981. We've seen this so many times. And Christians just can't get it. Like, see, there's a guy on TikTok who's really concerned that my nails are painted. Like, we give a shit about stuff like that. We don't care that there are starving children or the Bible says be transformed. We want to be able to, as Christians, to be able to say, well, I'm better than that guy because he paints his nails. So now I'm self-righteous. I have the supremacy of my religious beliefs. I'm better than that guy, because Christianity is a religion that teaches you you're dirt and terrible and nothing good can come from you because Adam ate a piece of fruit 6,000 years ago, that nothing good can come from you. So the only way, and it tells you don't search out emotional health, don't get therapy, just stuff it, give it to Jesus, brother, and move on. Forgive and forget. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And so you just stuff it, and then you cover it with faux masculinity and self-righteousness and self-congratulation. So the way you feel good about yourself as an evangelical Christian, say, well, I'm better than that guy who has his nails painted, with no evidence or thought as to why a guy with painted nails makes you uncomfortable in the first place. The rest of us have a pretty good guess why it makes you uncomfortable. But yeah. And so, so somebody gets on Fox News and says, children with genitals being mutilated. And we're like, oh my God, the liberals, they're coming to get us. Socialism has us. Oh, vote for assholes for office who don't know shit. And never stop to think like, oh, wait, we mutilate our children. We circumcise our babies. Why is that not mutilation? On Facebook says, look who's selling the message. Bannon, Stone, and many other con artists. Anything Roger Stone is connected with surely is not credible. Yeah, I mean, Matt Gaetz said it right there. Like, we are the party of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, and Jim Jordan. Anybody who wants to follow those people, I've got to question your thought process. Yeah. Carrie Lee says the U.S. is the only place that does circumcision routinely with no medical reason. So it's interesting that Christians would say, you mutilate children, when all of them are mutilating their children with circumcision. And it's interesting because their favorite writer of the Bible, Paul, who they love because they think he condemns queer people and condemns women to second place citizenship in the church and in society. So they love Paul because he doesn't love people the way Jesus did. Jesus will act like we love him abstractly on a cross, but we don't want to live like Jesus. We want to live like Paul because he gives us permission to hate the people we hate and to relegate women to second-class citizenship in our church and in our culture. But Paul said, and this is really fascinating, Paul said to the people of Galatia, to the Galatians, he says, you fools, who vexed you? Who hypnotized you to go back to the old religion? And what was he talking about? He was saying, why are you telling people they have to be circumcised to be Christian? He literally is saying, don't get circumcised, because there was a belief you had to be a Jew and follow Jewish customs to be a Christian in those days. So there were people teaching like you cannot be Christian without being circumcised and without following the ceremonial customs of Jewish people. And Paul is literally saying, if you believe that, if you go back to being circumcised, you have been hypnotized by bad teaching. Yet what do Christians do today? We are taught to get our little baby boys have the end of the foreskin of their penis cut off because of a Hebrew law for Jewish people that is explicitly said you don't have to do this in the New Testament. But because Christians don't think, that we never question our beliefs, here we are mutilating our children and then screaming about other people mutilating their children who aren't mutilating their children. It is a laughable thing. And when you are in an echo chamber where everybody agrees with you all the time, you never hear a dissenting opinion. Or if you come on here and hear my dissenting opinion, all you can do is throw out right-wing Fox News mantra tropes to try and avoid introspection and thought. You are conformed to an aeon. You are not being transformed by the ongoing renewing of your mind. I'm going to play another video for you, but I want to invite you guys, if you're hearing this and thinking, when was the last time I had my self-story challenged? When was the last time I thought about my mindset, what I tell myself about myself? Our self-identity, our self-love, our self-compassion is so important. Jesus said the two highest commands were what? Love God, love your neighbor. Well, that's not exactly true. He said, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And the implicit command of that is, if you don't love yourself, how are you going to love other people? How are you going to love your neighbor? And even more so than Jesus said, anybody can love their family. Anybody can love those they know. Anybody can love those in their echo chamber. But if you're truly a follower of God, you love the people who you don't believe deserve God's favor. You love the Samaritan, the Ninevite, the LGBTQ person, the Muslim, the Buddhist, the Mormon, anybody that an evangelical would say, they're not us, the Catholic, anybody that the evangelical would otherize to make themselves feel superior and that they have racial and religious supremacy. Jesus says, to prove you love God, you love that person. And to be able to do that, you have to love yourself. So many of us have lived in the shame of what we were taught by our parents, by our religion, and we don't even recognize it. We don't even recognize it that we're working out of a PTSD-like state in how we interact with people around us. And so that's the work I do. I pastored for many years, and I tried to get people saved, to walk the streets of gold and live in mansions one day. And it didn't make sense to me why it never seemed to change their life. Oh yeah, they'd get saved and they would come to church and they would work in children's ministry and they would go to men's retreats and they would travel to foreign countries and be the white savior, but they would come back home and still be miserable and their life wouldn't change. And so I'm so happy now that I stepped out of that and went into coaching, because I have testimony after testimony after testimony of person who said, I didn't have a life that was fulfilling, had vision, was sustainable and purposeful until I worked with Paul. So pastor-paul.com is my website. Go check it out. I have a new cohort starting at the end of March. So what we do is we have an online curriculum. You do one-on-ones with me, and we do cohort learning. So 1 month you'll do a one-on-one with me. The next month we'll be in a cohort of people who are like you. And for 12 weeks, we say, what does your identity look like going into this next season? How can you not be conformed to what you've been told, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so you can know what your vision and purpose is for this next season? Pastor-paul.com. If that's you, if you're like, I'm thinking about maybe changing jobs, I'm feeling like I'm coming to the end of a time in my life and something new is coming. I've left my church and I'm not exactly sure what to do with my faith and spirituality. Now, if you find yourself in any of those places, please go to pastor-paul.com and check it out. You can go to the link tree in my bio on any of the social media platforms and find it. Come, let's walk together in this journey and say, what is your true story in this season? Check it out, pastor-paul.com. Wow, Carrie says she refused to assist in the procedure of circumcision. To this day, I have trauma of I had to hold down my child while his penis was mutilated because I'm a Christian, doing an act that the Apostle Paul in the New Testament scripture says, you're a hypnotized fool if you believe you have to do this to be right with God. I mean, isn't that ironic? That shows what being conformed to your echo chamber can mean. That's why you got to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So one of the things that right-wingers are doing now to try to gain power, and trust me, it's what right-wing Christianity is all about, is the accumulation of political power to be able to impose Christian law onto others. And what they're doing now is demonizing trans children, right? Because we don't care if they go unalive themselves. In fact, maybe a lot of Christians hope they do. I want to play for you an amazing shared testimony from a Jewish priest, a Jewish rabbi, excuse me, shared the other day. You'll only be able to hear it on TikTok. You'll be able to see it on YouTube and Facebook. And it's just so profound. I know that Christians do not know Jewish history, and I think intentionally don't, because we want to be able to appropriate Hebrew sacred text for our own political purposes. But I want you to listen to this testimony from a rabbi the next time you think, yeah, God's okay with me demonizing trans children. Yeah, listen.
Bogard. I'm a rabbi. My name is Rabbi Daniel Bogard. I'm a rabbi at Central Reform Congregation, one of the largest Jewish communities here in the state of Missouri. And I'm here because I have a trans kid, because the first thing you learn when you love a trans kid in the state of Missouri is that you have to protect them from their government. Jews have a long history of looking at gender very differently than many of our Christian neighbors do, as we heard from the bill sponsor who testified herself that this bill is inspired by her very specific Christian faith. Jews look at this differently. 2,000 years ago, we have texts about there being 6, 7, 8 different genders. We have traditions that suggest that Abraham and Sarah were intersex, that the very first human beings were created not as Adam and Eve, but as Adam and Eve, as one combined intersex being. In the 1930s, and what we've now come to call the Nazi Olympics, it turns out that a whole bunch of athletes were going off and competing in these games, in the women's games, and coming back as men. There was an uproar in the American press, but I don't know about you, I had never heard about this because we don't teach the history of queer people. In fact, we only know this story because an old Jewish man in Brooklyn wrote in the 1930s in a letter to the editor in Yiddish, telling a story about a Jew who transitioned in the 1800s in Ukraine, in the shtetl, and was accepted and embraced and married off to Rachel and was treated like a human being.
Please finish your thought.
If we don't teach queer history, if we don't teach that there have always been trans people, then every time in every generation, it seems new and scary. And we are setting our kids up for narrow, bigoted, tiny lives and not giving them the education that every Missouri child deserves. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mm-hmm. There have always been trans people. In indigenous cultures, there were two-spirit people who were considered to be of neither gender, but to have a full spirit of masculinity and femininity. They were prized. They were necessary in the tribe. They brought blessing. They weren't put in any cultural bondage whatsoever. They were a gift just as a person to the tribe. The Bible itself literally says God made man in his image, and I would argue whether God is really a he or not, or if that's just an ancient Bedouin euphemism. But the Bible itself says God made man in his image, male and female, he made them. If you believe the two different stories of creation that are in the Hebrew portions of the Protestant Bible that the Protestants have appropriated and call the Old Testament, it says very clearly, male and female are the image of God. By the way, Adam does not mean man, it means mankind. It means humanity. Adam was a representation of all of humanity, not of just men. Yeah, like Sean says on TikTok, if men and women were created in the image of God, wouldn't that mean God is either gender? And again, the Christian hero, who they're actually Paulians, they follow the writings of Paul, not the life of Jesus. Even Paul says there is now no longer Jew nor Greek, male nor female, slave nor free. Jesus himself said, you're not going to be known as you are on earth. In the next life, you're not going to be marrying and all this other stuff, because there's not going to be this cultural thing of gender. TJ Janik says, I'm afraid to say my faith is dwindling. Purple Row 2 says again, so Purple Row 2 here says he made a man named Adam. Now, again, you need to learn what Adam means. It means mankind. You need to learn that there are two different creation stories in Genesis, and they're taken from the lore and myths and faiths around the Hebrew people. They are not literal. And what it's saying is Adam as a representation of mankind, and Adam and Eve are a representation of humankind in both male and female. And because we don't understand that in Christianity, because we're conformed to our echo chamber rather than having our mind renewed, we start to believe anything feminine is second class. This is why Christians say, well, why would a man have his fingernails painted? Because we believe anything women do makes them second class citizens. We're so sure that the privilege of the American male, and what we really mean is the American white male, is so powerful. Why would anyone want to give that up by doing something that doesn't fit the cultural norm of Christians' faux masculinity? And it's truly small dick energy, but I digress. They doth protest too much, I must say. Romans 12:2 says, don't be conformed to your echo chamber, but be transformed, radically changed by the ongoing renewing of your mind, so you can know what your vision and purpose and mindset are to be for this season. Not stuck in something in the past, not make me great again, not make America great again, not go to something that we idealized in our mind, but to say, what is the right thing in this season? I may have believed this before, and it may have even been useful because I needed to protect myself. But is it what I'm supposed to carry into the next season? That's why I coach, because I see far too many adult male bodies with little emotional boys inside. And they're taught in Christianity that don't fix that issue. Don't work on your emotional immaturity. Just act like John Wayne. Stuff everything down and it'll all be okay. Learned an interesting fact the other day that women are, I think women are 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with depression. Women are twice as likely to go see a therapist than a man. And if a man does decide to go see a therapist, he will take twice as long to get that first appointment to go. And interestingly, women are more likely to attempt self-harm. But men, get this, are 4 times more likely to kill themselves. So what do all those stats mean? Stats are stats, unless you can give them context. What it means is men are not being diagnosed for depression. Women are being diagnosed more often for depression, not because they're weaker and the weaker gender. They're actually the braver gender that's willing to say, I need help. But little boys in male bodies have been taught, stuff it, be tough, don't cry, be a man, don't run like a girl, throw like a girl, act like a girl, cry like a girl. And so we stuff. And sometimes when women try self-harm, sorry, I'm choking up here. Quite often their attempts at self-harm are plaintive cries for help. When a man hits that bottom and gets to self-harm, he's going to make it. He's going to make it work. It's not a cry for help. It's a cry to get the F out of a world that doesn't make any sense. And I'm working with so many men right now in my coaching through my pastor-paul.com website who are saying, particularly Gen X men like me, who are saying, I've always known there's something wrong. Something didn't fit. I did everything to conform to the aeon of my right-wing evangelical church, and it made me miserable. The church says, don't get therapy. Just take it to Jesus, brother, and stuff it down and say, I'm good. Better to look good than be good, brother. Just stuff it down. And men are literally killing themselves because of it. We tell transgender and queer kids, you're an abomination to God, and they're killing themselves because of it. And Christians, you don't give a shit. Because you want to be conformed to this age. And in many ways, it's impossible to get a Christian to even think about that because they've been so taught that thinking is sinful and introspection and reason go against their community narrative. So I'm not talking to them now. I'm talking to you. Whose story is running through your head? Is it your mom's, your dad's, your pastors, your Sunday school teachers, that person that abused you? That person who mistreated you, that person who did terrible things to you and convinced you it was your fault and you deserved it and it was your lot in life. When I coach, I ask people the question, are you good? And do you deserve good things to happen? And if somebody comes to me from being raised in the Christian faith, we have to first start to unwind that idea that God hates us and only Jesus standing between us and God can make anything good happen. I want you to know you have inherent value because you exist. You have inherent value because you're taking in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. And we can work together and get you to start to believe it about yourself. And when we start to change that story from I need to make mom happy to be okay, that then transfers into our marriage and says, I need to make my spouse happy to be okay. I need to make my coworkers happy to be okay. And every once in a while I blow my stack, but oh, that's just me. Bullshit. That is being conformed to the aeon of your life. That's being conformed to the story you've been told. Let's work on a new identity story together that says, mom was wrong about me. Dad was wrong. My abuser was wrong. I did not deserve that life, and I deserve an amazing life going forward. Carrie, I love that comment. She says, I would love to see someone question my big veteran husband, why he wears polish and jewelry. I love that, Carrie. Guys, you've been taught to stuff it. You've been taught that anything feminine is bad. And I wear fingernail polish to say, why are you afraid of femininity to be a part of your life? Why are you afraid of softness to be a part of your life? Why are you afraid of asking for help being a part of your life? Because you've been told in your echo chamber a very bad story of stuff it and use faux masculinity to make it all better, brother. And I just say that's a terrible story that looks nothing like the story of Jesus Christ. Carrie says the reason her husband does that is because they go to therapy and generally have friends that they talk with. Beautiful. So if any of this is resonating with you, go to my website, pastor-paul.com. I think if you go to the contact page, you can email me and say, I'm thinking about Reconstruction U, but it is a commitment of time and some money. Can we talk first? And send me an email through the contact us page on the website. And let's talk about it, whether it's right for you and the right time for you and how we can work it out to make it work for you. Pastor-paul.com is the website. Reconstruction U is my coaching. I'm sorry, I didn't mean this to just be a commercial. But I believe in this so strongly that we are not to be conformed to the echo chamber of what we've been told by our mom, by our dad, by our pastor, by our Sunday school teacher, by our right-wing conservative politician that has influence in our life, by our right-wing websites or cable news channels that we follow. Christianity has killed enough people in America. Let's break out of that spirituality. I think Jesus is awesome. I think it's just Christians and Christianity that are the problem. Let's learn. And I'm not saying you have to follow Jesus. I am no way in that you have to come join my religious sect. But if Jesus is a part of your heritage or whatever your spirituality is, let me coach you to that place that is drawing you through supernatural divine love to your best self. The plaid dad says, my parents or belief didn't teach me to stuff everything down. That's good. Then you're one of the lucky ones. Because for most people I coach, mom, dad, pastor said, you don't deserve to be happy. You're dirt. Tom says, thanks so much for this. Pastor-paul.com is the website. Go check it out. Send me an email. Say, I'm interested, but I would like to learn more, or sign up. My next cohort is starting at the end of this month. So you got to jump in right away. And when you sign up, you get access to the first lesson for free. And we'll just do a whole bunch of fun stuff together. Hi, Guy. Thanks for joining. Pastor-paul.com. One other thing I want to turn your attention to, I have a great new podcast episode out today. Not a new podcast, but a new podcast episode. And it's with Joe Weston, who is a lasting peace advocate. And Joe has written a new book called Fierce Civility, which is coming out in 3 days. You can pre-order by going to his website, joeweston.com. But if you go, well, this is part 2. We can learn to live together or we can die together. Fierce civility is the topic of Joe's book. And it's about how do we have civil discussions that come with a ferocity for truth in the middle of it. And I think you'll really enjoy that podcast if you go to listen. So I hope that you will. And also, as you're at my website, check out my subscription possibilities if you want to help spread this message that God is not mad at you. Go to my website on YouTube and Facebook. You can just point your camera at the QR code and go there. Or you can go to pastor-paul.com and check it out. I need your help. I need support, financial, emotional, everything else, so that I can survive and take care of my family and household. So check it out, pastor-paul.com. Access my coaching services, Reconstruction U for identity, Deconstruction U for theology and faith, subscriptions, and ongoing communication for financial and emotional support. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining me on this Monday. Don't forget, don't be conformed to your echo chamber, whether it's religious, political, or anything else. Step outside of it. Ask questions. Do things differently. Romans 12:2, don't be conformed to your age or era, but be transformed, completely changed by the ongoing renewing of your mind so you can know what is good and right and acceptable in the next season. I hope this has inspired you today. It's inspired me. I'm ready to go. Send me an email through the website, pastor-paul.com, and we'll figure out how I can support you on your life journey in this next season of your life. Take care, everyone. Love you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Guy. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, TikTok. We'll see you later. And YouTube and Facebook. Love you all.